Welcome back to another episode of NFT Catcher Podcast. We'd like to remind everybody that nothing on the show is meant as financial advice, and to please do your own research. Thank you, and enjoy the show.
Now the subject is NFTs.
They're known as non-fungible tokens, or NFTs.
NFTs are exploding in popularity.
This is a technology that will forever change the way people interact.
So it is happening whether you understand it and like it or not.
This phenomenon is moving. The digital.
You have now joined Jenny from the blockchain and Michael Keene on the NFT Catcher Podcast.
What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the NFT Catcher Podcast with me, Jenny from the blockchain, and my co-host, Michael Keene. Today's interview, we have Efdot joining us, who is a Brooklyn-based visual artist whose work has been showcased internationally and has been featured in large public sites, galleries, and commercial products. He's collaborated with Nike, Adobe, Apple, Hypebeast, etc., etc. Without further ado, Efdot, welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. You know what? Let me not share any stories yet. First, I want to get into your Web3 journey, and then, we got a bunch of stuff to jump into here, but how did you first get into the NFT space?
So a little bit of background before I started minting my work as NFTs. I explored a lot of different art mediums. I studied graphic design. I ended up doing a lot of murals around the city, and every time I was traveling, I was painting these big pieces to kind of leave my fingerprint behind wherever I went. That was my motivation, just like wanting to share my art in more places. And then the pandemic happened, and so a lot of my murals really slowed down, and businesses were not opening, events weren't happening. There just wasn't as much of a need for murals, which was my main thing that I was known for back then. So my business really shifted, and I had to adapt to what was happening during the pandemic. And surprisingly, it wasn't NFTs at first. It was these trading cards that I got kind of looped in with Topps, the baseball card company. And I was designing baseball cards for them because sports wasn't happening. People were digging up in their attics all these old collectibles, and they just reached out to 20 artists to create this series. But some of my collectors in that project started talking about NFTs, and they started saying, like, are these going to be available as NFTs, or would you be open to doing something on the side and minting it? And I started getting curious, like, why are they asking me to do this? Because I just didn't know much about it. So I started listening in on Clubhouse mainly, and then eventually Twitter, X, and educating myself, doing that first bunch of hours of research to understand how it actually works, why an artist would join. Because at the time, there just wasn't a lot of traditional artists. I mean, I do digital and physical work, but there wasn't a lot of people from my circles joining. And so the reason I really started to think it was a viable option was because I just saw that there was this new generation of collectors forming, this new generation of artists that were going directly kind of around the middleman and putting their work on these marketplaces. And I was like, this could be the future art world. This is actually more equitable, more transparent. It just made sense to me, so much more than trying to get my work in a fancy gallery, which I had been trying to for a little while and didn't have as much success. So I minted my first work actually was a collaboration. And then shortly after that was a 10-piece series of one-of-ones that were all animated. Those got on the homepage of OpenSea somehow. And after that, I got a bunch of support, and I was able to really kickstart my journey from that project forward.
That's dope.
I could tell you about what the project was, but I just wanted to give like a summary of how it all went down.
Yeah. By the way, before we go on, your Topps cards are insane, dude.
I knew you were going to bring, I was going to say, I know Michael wants to talk about the Topps.
I remember, so you were supposed to come on about a month ago, and I did my research back then, and I did it again, and somehow I missed it this time, and I totally forgot until you brought it up. And I went and looked. I mean, that Mark McGuire one is like that. Those green colors you used is sick. Like these are awesome cards, man. I love it. And especially with like encased with your little special sticker on there. Those are dope. That must have been really cool.
It was definitely a project that helped me get through that time and like get back in touch with my roots. Because I don't play baseball or watch sports that much anymore. But when I was a kid, I was all about it. Like that was my hobby, was going to the card store, busting open a pack of cards, and trying to get like fancy rare ones, and then, trading with my friends. So there's a lot of things that brought me back to collecting, and that was one of them. And also just the mindset of wanting to collect unique sets of things and express yourself through the art that you own and the art that you create. Yeah, Topps was amazing. And I haven't done a project with them in a little over a year now, but overall, I did about 50 different designs for them over the course of 2 years. So it kept me busy. Like I just didn't have time to do anything else. I barely had time to make that first project when I was entering NFTs. So
Dude, that's sick.
Yeah.
And then what are the cards on your website? The ones when you keep going down, are they Topps also? They're like straight up art, like they're real artistic in your style and stuff.
those are companion cards. So basically, I never had a big group of collectors before asking me for like what's coming next kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
And at that
Got you,
time,
yep.
all of a sudden I have thousands of collectors because these were sold very affordably at like $20 to get one of these artist cards. And they were really premium feeling too. And so when you get it in the mail, it's super exciting. And so I wanted to kind of bring that into my shop, like outside of the Topps project, and say, what if I did a companion card for each of the Topps cards in my style that was a little more like fictional, about a blob character that kind of fits in my world, but it's inspired by the baseball player's story and some notes from that. So 20 of the cards ended up getting companion cards. And then the next year I did a smaller series. Those ended up becoming NFTs. And I did printed cards on metal to kind of go along with those for the collectors after they picked it up on Nifty Gateway. Yeah, it's like a transition project.
And I just came across your Mike Schmidt. That was my hero growing up. I was born 79 in Philly, so I'm a huge Phillies fan. That card's awesome, man. Good stuff. That's really cool. Cool to hear that story.
We should definitely connect more about Philly because I went to college in Philly and I was there.
And you did what you did. You were a sign painter in Philly or something. What did it say?
A bit of a story behind that. I just got obsessed with lettering and seeing all those hand painted signs around the city. And so I was studying graphic design, but I did a thesis about sign painting. And then I wanted to learn how to actually paint and do it. It was not just design a book about it or design a little kit. I wanted to actually learn. So I started apprenticing and assisting sign painters. And eventually I learned that a lot of those people don't actually design the work. They just paint it. And so I started distancing myself from the word sign painter because it just feels like that's the person who's installing it, not necessarily creating the art. And there are some that can do both, but I was kind of pigeonholing me. So I broadened it up again. I kind of I was doing a lot of lettering, and then I got a little tired of just drawing letters and messages and words. And I just started communicating feelings that I could only do through abstract art or through illustration. Yeah.
I hijacked a little bit, Jenny. Hop on in there,
good.
please. Yeah.
I was going to say, speaking of lettering, I mean, I watched this video where your artistic journey kind of starts where, well, first of all, you're like, freelance designer in New York. And then you basically have this near-death experience, which was so I was like, oh my God, it was so intense, watching the video about it, which I'd love for you to share a bit if you're comfortable. But yeah, and then, you kind of get really serious about art after that. And yeah, so I mean, if you want to share that story on how you kind of decided to really go hard being an artist and go in a different direction, because you were doing lettering, as you said, and optimism became kind of the next thing. That was really cool to hear.
Sure.
So,
yeah, it's all intertwined, right? Because I'm doing these lettering pieces. It's 2014. I had just moved to New York after finishing college in Philly a couple years prior. And I'm somehow making it work. I'm freelancing, living the dream, but it was some very bare bones version of the dream, with a small studio apartment. I'm just getting by having some freelance work from God knows where, random job board websites, things that people would throw my way. And one day I was working on painting a sign actually for my friend's tattoo shop. And all of a sudden I realized that the backyard of my building was on fire and it was getting really crazy, really fast. And so it was a very relaxed morning, quickly turned into a disaster mode of how do I get out of here? What am I going to do? Do I need to grab anything from my apartment before I leave? Because this fire, I'm on the second floor. So it looks like it's going to come into my apartment any minute now. And that's basically what I did. Was I just went into panic mode and I ran out the front door, and the cops were already called. And I just prayed that my things would be okay. I left behind two pets as well I couldn't find them. They were so scared. So it was a very heartbreaking day. But once I was able to go back into the apartment after the fire was put out, I was in such a state of shock. But I was able to find, amidst all the debris, because the fire did spread throughout the entire apartment and burn almost everything. So it was a really sad thing to see, because I was hoping for a lot of things to still be usable. Most of it was not. And one of the things that I found was this drawing that I did a couple weeks prior. And it was this lettering piece that said optimist. And so I found that inside my scanner, which was like melted shut, but I like got it out. And it was just this note from my past self to myself in that moment that I needed to see. It was this reminder of like why I create and what brought me here, and what was starting to happen for me, like this bare bones version of that dream, that I knew that I needed to just go really hard at it and put everything behind this story. I sort of wrote my story from that moment on, of like, I'm going to be an artist that embraces optimism in this crazy, chaotic world where it seems like everybody's out to get you and everything's a scam. I'm just going to really go against that and put as much optimism as I possibly can out into the world. So that logo mark that says optimist ended up becoming a lot of different things, pins, t-shirts, patches, stickers, prints. And I just sent them out to people who helped me after the fire at first. And then it started developing beyond that and becoming a little bit of a brand itself. But I did get a little bit tired of just the hand lettering. So I said, how can I bring optimism into my art in a way that isn't so obvious? It doesn't exactly tell you a phrase that's like the meaning of the art. It's like makes you feel a certain way. You walk away feeling that way, but you don't have to be told what to feel. So that's what I've been exploring ever since I moved on from lettering. But yeah, that moment really changed my trajectory, and it reminded me, I always think like, why do I do this? And it's because creating is a gift. Getting to do this, getting to be alive and healthy, to have two hands that function and create something from nothing, like that's the gift, and everything else is a bonus. And that day really just solidified that for me.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. And you said two pets. I read that one of them, you found your cat like in an alley, like a few days later or something.
Yeah, we were looking around for the cats because they were nowhere to be found when we went back in. And that same day, actually, it was like a few hours after they put out the fire, my cat named Pocket was found in another apartment. Actually, she like jumped out the window over the backyard somehow.
Wow,
and like
cats are
entered
so
another
smart.
Yeah, and like what she must have seen was so crazy. I felt so bad after leaving the cats in there. Unfortunately, the other cat didn't make it out, but Pocket lived a very long life, and very, very grateful that she survived.
Wow. Yeah, when I read that you had to like leave your cats behind because you had to like flee, I literally shed a tear. I was like, because I have two cats myself. I was like, oh my God, nothing. But then when I read, and then I took a break from reading your story, and then I was like, I was like crying because of the cats. And then I came back and I read, and I was like, oh my God, they found one of the cats. Like I was like so overjoyed. I'm like, yes, Pocket.
Yeah, it's hard to shake that story because it's like so meaningful to me. And then when I share it with others, they seem to really get inspired by it. Like at that time when I was putting out the different pieces of merch with the Optimist artwork on it, I started getting these messages from people that they were like pouring out their guts, sharing their story. Like I had opened up this new level of vulnerability in my own life, and that other people connected with it in a way that they felt safe to share their story. And I was like, wow, there's something really powerful that I'm doing here. And I just have to keep pulling this string.
That's huge.
Was that in Philly, you said?
That was in Manhattan. It was 2 years after I finished college in Philly.
Got you. Where'd you go to school in Philly again? What'd you say?
Drexel University.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Very nice. Yep. Cool.
Yeah, I love
my uncle went there.
It's interesting to think about design these days, because like a lot of times design is conflated with art, and people sort of see one being superior to the other, where like artists have no constraints on them when they're being an artist. They're just expressing themselves, right? And then when you're a designer, it's like not even about you, it's about the end user or the client. And I have both voices in my head like shouting at me. So it's an interesting way to create art when I was trained as a designer, and I'm trying to like shed some of that thinking, because I don't need to be so, rectangular about everything I'm doing. But I have before me, many years of just creating for fun. So before I studied design. So I'm a big mix.
Okay, I'm going to switch it up a little bit.
Let's do it.
You've done a lot of collaborations, and I mean, we kind of mentioned it in the intro a bit, but what is you probably can't pinpoint like one specific, but what's like one of your favorite collabs that you've done so far in your career?
One of my favorite collabs, trying to think of like a sentimental one. Well, I just finished one recently that I haven't even had the chance to share yet, that I can talk about because I haven't had a chance to talk about this one yet. But basically, I've done a couple of projects now with the New York Knicks, and this last one was the biggest one that we've done yet. And we got to refurbish and repaint a full-size basketball court really close to my hometown. So that was really cool. Getting to work with the Garden of Dreams Foundation, their nonprofit at MSG, and Squarespace was also involved in funding the project. And that was about a year of emailing to get to the finish line of painting the court. So a lot of buildup, and it's really amazing to see local kids just playing basketball on top of my art.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Did you was that something that I mean, I guess you said you've worked with them before. Like, how did that come about where you started working with them? Did you reach out to them, or were they they just noticed you from all your work you've been doing?
So after the baseball card project was over at the end of 2021, I started getting messages and emails from teams directly. So first it was the Chicago Cubs, then it was the Chicago Bulls, and then it was the Knicks. And I think it was maybe working with the Bulls or doing the Topps project that attracted them to see my work. But I think there's not a lot of artists in the sports art kind of niche that have a similar style to me. So I think that was probably why they reached out. Yeah. The first project I did with them was painting a jersey that was auctioned for charity. The second project was an NFT collection. They did a small collection of one-of-ones with artists that were auctioned on Coinbase NFT. And then about a year later, we started the basketball court. So, and it just finished recently.
Oh, it just finished. Yeah. Okay. When do you get to announce it and everything?
I can announce it whenever I want.
Okay.
Because it's been announced. I was just trying to get the right shots of it. I wanted to get the drone view and
I see, and
capture it. And then ideally do some kind of subsequent launch, because I think it's a design that I'm really proud of. And I think it could be a print, it could be an NFT if the Knicks are cool with it. So I'm just kind of planning how I'm going to share it. But I would say that's one of my bigger collaborations that I'm just so proud of, because it's so close to my hometown. And now whenever I go home, I get to go visit it. It's so meaningful.
That's dope, Michael.
That's cool. That's all. That's sick. That's awesome. I was letting that marinate. It's really cool. That's good. You've gotten to do a lot of really kind of cool bucket list stuff. It sounds like working with the Knicks. I mean, being from New York and working with the Knicks must be pretty incredible. Must be a good bragging right to your friends.
Oh man,
even if you're not a huge basketball fan, even just that, they must be that's pretty sweet.
It is cool. People outside of art starting to care about what I'm doing, because they see things that they recognize over the last few years, for sure.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. Let's pivot again, because another thing I want to talk about, I get to talk about one of my other favorite things. Jenny will love it. Travel. Seems like you've been all over Latin America. You live down in Buenos Aires. You've in Mexico City. I've also traveled all over Latin America, Central, South America. I just wanted to hear kind of what did you get out of it? What do you like about traveling? Where'd you go? And maybe I'll let you know some of the places I went, because I don't ever mind talking about that.
Yeah, traveling is such an important part of being an artist for me. Just seeing other ways of life and other just lighting, even the way that the sun hits the earth in different places in the world, the air, the language, the signage. We're just talking about sign painting. I loved all of that when I was traveling. First places I traveled to were, I think, Costa Rica, outside of the US at least. Costa Rica, Dominican Republic. Then I started traveling a bit in Europe. I studied abroad in Prague and got to see a little more of Eastern Europe, which is actually where my lineage is from mostly. And then, I don't know, I really resonated with the values in Mexico and other parts of Latin America as I started to explore more. Everyone was so warm and welcoming and family oriented and artistic and just bold and vibrant in everything that they did, from the dancing to the music to the food to the art that's in the museums. I just felt more inspired than ever when I went down and started spending more time in Mexico City and in Buenos Aires. That was a part of a job, actually. I got relocated when I was full-time working for WeWork, as they were on their big growth phase, I got to work and build a team for them down in Buenos Aires of artists and designers. That was a dream job for me, just getting to collaborate with locals and kind of learn their language. Although I think most of my time was spent just learning the language, not actually doing much else, just trying to assimilate. I was there for about 2 years in Buenos Aires. So I loved it, and I hope to go back soon and do something impactful. But for now, I just love seeing like whenever my friends pass by my murals.
Dope. I've been there twice. I've been there twice actually. Argentina is one of my favorite places. You go anywhere else in Argentina?
Mar del Plata was the only other
Mar del
place.
Plata. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I did Iguazu Falls, and one of my favorite places I've ever been in my whole life is Bariloche down in Patagonia, San Carlos de Bariloche. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I can't even describe how great it is down there.
I haven't gotten to the Argentina side yet, but I went to the Chile side to see Torres del Paine.
Oh, very nice.
Do that big hike. So I hope to go back to Patagonia for the Argentina side.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Me too. I want to get back there too, man. Love it. Go there you go in like January, February here. So it's summer down there. It's light till midnight. It's awesome.
It's crazy. Yeah. And the glaciers.
Awesome. Yeah. Exactly. Good stuff.
I want to cap that off and say,
please.
If you're listening and you do go to Patagonia and you like to celebrate with a little beverage, take some of the glacier ice. Although I'm not sure if this is legal. I shouldn't be saying this.
And eat it?
But no, put it in your drink. Yeah. Like, do the glacier ice and whiskey and a little whiskey, bottle of whiskey. Yeah. Oh my God. It's amazing. Just like when you finish that hike and you get to the lake and you put some of that ice from
just the ice and pour the whiskey over it. That probably is awesome.
Yeah.
That's a really good idea.
We did that on New Year's Day. I think it was 2018.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Badass. We went what we do whitewater rafting in Patagonia, and like when we stopped and we're eating lunch or whatever, everyone just filled up their water bottles with the river water right off the glacier. Like the water was just right off the glacier. Exactly. I was like,
I know what that Patagonia clothing brand. They probably named it after. Well, yeah, I never knew Patagonia was like a place.
Yeah,
I just thought it was a brand.
It is an amazing place that you should learn more about.
Yeah, I'll have to go sometime. Maybe
it's amazing. It's as big as the American West, but it's just completely open. There's no people, like very few people. There's a couple dotted cities. It's all like untouched, beautiful, crazy mountains and lakes and just I don't know. It's wild.
Yeah. Bringing it back to NFTs though, like there was just a Bright Moments event in Argentina, and they had a whole Patagonia experience for certain collectors that bid on this one artist's work. And it was like, you go down to Patagonia, get a physical object that goes along with the NFT. That kind of experience and combining that with travel is really fascinating to me. So I'm thinking about how I can in the future just create more experiences with
1,000%. Yeah. Dude, 1,000%. There's lots of ways to do that. I've thought about even stuff like that. Like you could sell a piece of art that's basically a token for people to come meet you at Machu Picchu, and you have an Airbnb rented. You sell 10 of them and there's 10 bedrooms, and the price includes,
that's a little sus.
The Airbnb and it's weird
because like you don't know. Yeah, you don't know who's gonna like.
Well, that you would. I mean, that's for sure.
I guess that'd be sus for me.
Oh, yeah, it'd be fine. I'd do it. But I hear that. That is a little part of it. I mean, you could do 10 hotel rooms if it was a worrisome thing.
Right.
But the Airbnb would be more of like a community. Like you could bring in cooks and stuff, local chefs.
Oh.
Yeah, dude.
That'd be sick.
I've thought about that a lot because you know how much I love to travel. I've just been too busy to really put anything together. But like, there's a lot, like travel clubs would be awesome with tokens, and it's memorable. I think it'd be awesome. You could totally do that, man. Especially you and your community. People would love that.
I saw you. You came out with like mystery boxes. I love physical. I love when NFT artists do like physical stuff because I don't know. Sometimes it's just like a lot more affordable, and I like to be able to like see it in my house and stuff like that. But yeah, that seemed like a labor of love. You had a picture with all your like packages next to you. What inspired you to do that mystery box?
I've been doing those for a couple years now, actually. And it's something where I think printmaking is a part of my practice I just love how my line work and my flat colors kind of come out when you see them screen printed. It's just way different than when you get it printed like a poster from a digital printer. It's kind of a lost art, and most people don't know the difference between the different printing methods. But I don't know, like something about signing and numbering and addition of screen prints just feels still to this day a big part of my art practice. Even if I'm not doing all the printing myself, I like to work with local printers and get the quality to the point where I'm like, yes, this is it. And put my signature on it versus just sending out on-demand prints. So with that, I end up making several editions of things. Not every one is sold out right away. And so what do I do with the leftover prints? I basically figure out, well, let's turn them into an experience that's actually adding value to the prints and making more excitement in my community. So they open up this box and then they get to share it in my Discord or whatever and trade with each other. That's a really fun experience. It reminds me of what we were just talking about with, when I was a kid, like picking up cards and trading with each other. So that's one thing. And then also I include original art, which are one of a kind drawings and sketches and paintings that some of them I just don't want to sell. I'd rather like have them out there in the world without any price attached to it from me. Just want to see how they react. Because I'm always testing to see like what's exciting me is also exciting everyone else, and just getting the work in people's hands was a big part of it. And I love that feeling of like getting a package in the mail from someone. Like you said, physical hit's different. And I've been doing it for a long time. Just because I have NFTs now doesn't mean I'm going to stop doing it. And so I'm still making new editions of prints. I'm still, paying exorbitant amounts of money to see things produced the old fashioned way. But I think the quality matters. And I think in the long term, it will mean a lot to my community. So, and to me.
Yeah. You kind of mentioned like the screen printing versus like on demand printing.
Yeah.
I definitely don't know what the difference is.
Sure. So when you put a piece of paper into a printer, like the one that you may have at your house, that is a digital inkjet printing. And that's what a lot of the on-demand printing companies use because you can just make things one at a time. The only cost that you have is the ink cartridges and the paper, right? And whoever is manning the printer and shipping it out. Whereas with screen printing or other types of printing like letterpress, each color is being printed one at a time. So you have to kind of limit down your artwork to a small number of colors, which if you use different, patterns and grains and stuff, you can actually make the appearance of more colors. You print yellow over orange or yellow over blue and it creates green wherever you have overlaps. But it's that art of like simplification of an image down to a few screens. And basically, like when I say screens, it's like you're not putting it through a digital printer. You're literally passing the ink manually through a screen and the ink is sitting on the paper and it's sort of masking out all the areas that you don't want to be hit with that color. So when you see like old school band posters, when you see t-shirts that have like special effects on them, like puff 3D, ink on it or whatever, that's usually screen printed because it's just not possible to do by like putting it under an inkjet machine, even if they've gotten super advanced. And so, yeah, like I said, it's kind of a lost art, but I think that the colors are different. The textures are different. I can do things like I want only this color to be shiny and glossy. So I can make it pop in a way that you just can't do that in other ways and definitely can't do that on screen. So I'm enjoying all the things that I still love about my physical work that just can't be done with my digital work. But I like my digital work for the same reasons, for the things I can't do with my paintings and prints.
Yeah, that's great. How would you know that, like, if I was ordering a print for someone, how would I know? Do people usually specify like, hey, this is like screen printed? Or is there any real way to tell that they're going to have it screen printed versus just like what's more popular, the on demand?
It's usually sold as an edition. So numbered. And so if you have a number on it, I mean, some photographers will use inkjet printing or on-demand printing for like a one-of-one print or a limited edition of prints. It's more common to see screen printing in illustrators' work or abstract artists' work because photography doesn't really lend itself well to screen printing because there's just so many colors in there. So yeah, if you're willing to do black and white or you're willing to simplify the colors of your photograph, you might see that. But usually it's marketed in the name of the product. It would just say the title of the artwork and then screen print because people like a lot of collectors, or at least the more traditional ones, like they value that. So you put it up in the top of the product name or the description. But I mean, there's both because the issue with it is it makes the cost prohibitive for people to collect sometimes, right? Not everybody wants to spend $100 or more on a print. Like, you just want to be able to pick up your favorite artist's work for like $30. So digital printing is great for that. And a lot of artists are willing to sort of see their work on more walls, even if it's not like the best possible quality paper or the best possible quality printing. There's room for both, but I prefer when the artist really like touched it, signed it and approved the quality versus the on-demand stuff.
What is it when they call them I don't know how to pronounce it, GICLEE, Geely or something?
Yeah, that's a fancy way of saying digital on-demand printing.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, but it's a new machine. It's like a new fancy inkjet printer that has like brighter colors than ever before, and they started using that I think in the last like 20 years, 30 years.
Okay,
but it's just like inkjet printing.
Do you think we're like going to be moving more away from physical, or what do you kind of think the future of art is now more than ever? Like, digital art is really popping off, and people are able to make money through blockchain and everything, minting their work. Do you think that physical is kind of going to become like a bit outdated, or what are your thoughts on like the future of art?
I think it is what you make of it, and the culture, as it always is splintering apart from each other. So the people who care about the physicals, they're hanging out in maybe different discords than the degens that are buying, or the digital art collectors, I should say, that are buying NFTs that have no physical attached. So it's just going to keep splintering, and whatever you want to find, like, there's probably someone doing it, just like there is in the prior pre-Web3 art world. There were people selling digital art. They just weren't tokenizing it. And there were people selling all kinds of digital art and all kinds of physical art. And not all of it is good, in my opinion, but everyone has their own taste. So yeah, I think that there's going to be more and more digital artists creating, but there will also probably be a lot of young people creating physical art too. And I can't really say which one's going to be like 90-something% of the market or the output. I just can't predict that. I think that physical art has benefits that digital art doesn't, and digital art has benefits that physical art doesn't. One more prediction maybe is that, like, in the future, we just won't be able to tell what's digital and what's physical. And you need a physical device to display digital art anyway. So digital is physical in a way. I think it's just going to become more and more blurry for us as enjoyers and as creators.
Have you looked at all about with chipping your prints and your merch with NFC chips? That's becoming really popular.
I have done a little bit of that. I am really excited about what Transient Labs is working on with their Trace technology, and I'm hoping to get some of those chips. I have not been attaching them to my mystery boxes or any of those pieces, but one of the things that I did put in the mystery boxes is like a little NFT redemption card. So it has like, a little holiday gift. So if they see it in the box and they are online during the window from like the 20th to the 30th of December, then they can get an NFT that kind of comes along with their box. Everyone will get the same piece, but it's just a way of bringing that physical and digital together. And I think we're just going to see more and more of that.
Cool. Love that.
Yeah.
I want to know from an artist perspective, because I've been seeing a lot about it from a lot of different perspectives, and artists for sure, but AI art and how kind of advanced it's getting. I want to hear what you think.
I am tinkering with AI art behind the scenes. I use it to brainstorm ideas sometimes. I use it to blend artworks sometimes. I don't feel as emotionally attached to the images that I create with Midjourney, which is the main tool that I've been using. But I like to see what it can do, and I like to push the limits of it to see if there's anything that I can bring back into my art practice, whether literally taking those pixels or just getting inspired by it. I also like the describe function, where you can put in an image and it will try to describe to you what it sees.
That's amazing. It's amazing.
So it gives me new language for things that I'm already enjoying or things that I'm already making. I have sometimes like threw my art into the machine, my handmade stuff, and like, what does it see? Right. I want to see what it spits out, like, after seeing my work. And it doesn't ever come really that close. So I think I'm fairly safe, right? Like, for the time being, that the AI cannot create art in my detailed drawing style, which I'm very grateful for, because a lot of artists are their work was just like thrown right into the model without them getting to say otherwise, like have a decision in the matter. And now everyone's creating work with their style, or they can, very easily. So it's dangerously easy. It's not dangerous that it's going to like destroy the world, but it's dangerous that it's so easy to create so many beautiful images. And it's sort of like, well, what value are we putting on beautiful imagery? Like the technical aspect of making a beautiful styled image, not much anymore because anybody can do it. So it changes the way that you look at images and art, for better or for worse. I'm trying to embrace it as much as I can in my process. And I'll often, like I said, like use it as a basis for other artwork, but not so much that I'm willing to give up my practice of drawing by hand, because I get other benefits out of it. I don't get the same benefits out of prompting the AI that I do out of like really drawing for an hour or two or longer.
It's like therapeutic, right? Because you're like, you're creating it, and
you can't say that anybody else made it.
Jenny's an artist, right? Jenny's an artist.
I'm not an artist.
Of course you are, with those eyes, the eyeballs you drew.
I want to see these.
Do you have it handy?
Yes.
It's really good.
I have.
She'll bring it up. Me personally. So I always wished I could be an artist. I always tried to draw when I was a kid. Like I could barely make a stick figure, but I've fallen in love with it for myself because, I can be so productive making art. I don't have to ask people to help. I can do all kinds of really cool stuff. I was on Midjourney for a long time, probably for 6 months, paying them $60 a month. But ChatGPT and DALL-E 3, which updated probably like a month ago, is a game changer. I think it's even better.
I have to try that out.
And you can talk to it like a person. You could say, hey, change this. Like Midjourney, you need to keep doing new prompts. ChatGPT and DALL-E, you can literally talk to it like it's like your companion. Change it up like this, do that.
It's moving fast. I think maybe we will be more attached to the art that's coming out of the AI in the future, because I think the cream always rises to the top. Like if you generated 1,000 images over the course of the year, there's going to be a small section of those that are like still in your brain because they hit you in a certain way. Even if you didn't do most of the technical work, it's like it was your idea, so you feel a little bit attached to it. I don't know. I think that there's something to that. People have to be really careful with the curation, because if you put out everything that you make, it's like that looks sort of lazy. Like you used AI and you didn't curate it very well, So I think curation matters regardless of the medium, and AI is no different.
Yeah,
100%.
I love that.
And if you are good at curating ideas, like my friend Delta Sauce just did a 500-piece AI art collection. He does collage.
I saw that on Braindrops, right? Was that on Braindrops? Sold out. That was yesterday. No, I saw it. Sold for 0.1 and went up to like an ETH. I saw that.
Check out the art.
I need to. Yeah. I'm like talking about the floor price. You're right. I'm sorry. I need to look at it.
Yeah. It's like, why did it go so parabolic? But I think it's really because he put 10 months of time into making these AI artworks and curating very carefully, like the best of the best. And the ones that fit into his vision for the story that he wanted to tell. And I think that's art. So you can't really deny it just because it was used image generation or text to image to like speed it up, that it's any different. It's definitely like confusing times though for us who have spent 10,000 hours or more learning a skill that the AI they can't replicate it exactly, but it can come close.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'll tell you honestly, I'm working on a project and I have a graphic designer and artist who I love. I've worked with a long time. And I also have an AI guy, and the graphic designer probably gets us, 7 graphics a week, maybe. And the AI guy's pumping out like hundreds and hundreds of things on, and like making different, like it's just wild. It's just wild. And you feel bad a little bit, but then it's just the way of the world. Like, I think that painters got mad when the camera was invented,
Right. I just think it's so different from that invention to this. Like people like to make that comparison, But with the camera,
Okay.
like you still had to go like find the image somewhere in the world, and like wait for the
Right.
lighting.
This you just have
Yeah.
to like, yeah.
Now
No, I know.
everything's perfect lighting whenever you want it. So
Yeah, well, you tell it the lighting you want. Yeah, exactly.
exactly. And you can change it afterwards. So I don't know, like there's a purist in me that wants to value like carefully made photography or illustration over like an AI version of that, because I can see the struggle and like the story in it more, can see the humanity in it more.
Yeah.
But I can also see the humanity in someone like Delta's work. So it's hard to really say, like,
Yeah.
it just depends on the artist.
Yeah. Well, I
More.
really appreciate that perspective hearing from you. That's why I wanted to ask you. I want to ask a lot of artists this, like, because it is really interesting. Like, I'm not an artist, but I have a ton of artist friends, and I want to be sympathetic and talk to them. But I also, like, I'm kind of a technologist and like to use the latest stuff, and it blows my mind.
The thing that it's also doing is like people are very quickly
Mm-hmm.
realizing how hard it is to be a full-time artist, because if you're an AI artist, that's like most people aren't buying AI art yet because it's so new. It's like the technology lovers are buying it. Maybe I read this, it was like techno optimists or techno utopians are buying it, essentially, as if that's going to be replacing everything in the art world. But I don't think that it's so black and white.
It's definitely not. It's definitely not black and white. It's good to have the conversation. There's a lot of nuance to it in a lot of different fields. I mean, art's just one of them for sure. I mean, even like coders and designers, like all that kind of interesting stuff.
It definitely forces you to look inward and be like, what is the value that only I can share with the world?
Yeah.
What is the story that I have to share that only I can do in the way that I do it, And
and there's something to be said for the creativity of the prompting, because a brilliant artist comes up with ideas while sometimes they're relatively simple. Like you look at it like, oh man, of course, like a brilliant, and like, so like they're just putting in that right prompt to get that right output. Regular person might not be able to do it, but a true artist might be able to come up with something.
Yeah, I think the more experience you have with drawing or photography, like the better the AI work's going to be, because you know what to look for and how to make it better.
I think so. Yeah.
And how to better tell a story. If you're just like starting out and AI art is like your main medium after maybe doing a little bit of stuff as a kid, it's going to be hard. It's going to be a tough pill to swallow, that there's a lot more that goes into being an artist than just making it look good, or look traditionally, technically. I mean, it's just the bar is so low now, right? Or I guess the bar is higher now, because you have to like you have to really transmit your feeling across the digital world in a way that doesn't make it look like it was something that was just easily made, but with a prompt. Or your idea just has to be so unique and good that it cuts through the noise.
The cream will rise to the top.
Yes.
And also, before I forget, this is probably my best thing that I've done.
Whoa.
Which took me days. And also this is not original. I literally watched a YouTube video and I would just pause it every like second and try to like exactly replicate like the person. So it was just like me like trying to like mimic the other person's art, because I am not like naturally an artist, like trying to like create a whole eyeball by myself. But it was a fun learning process, and it was very like frustrating at times, because you're like, oh, why can't it look like this person's, and you're just trying to get it perfect. But
it tests your patience a little bit, right?
Yeah, it tests my patience a lot. So made me have a newfound appreciation for artists and stuff. But anyway, all right, let's get into our Gas Force segment here, folks.
That was cool to see, though. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Thanks. Okay, my first question is going to be a community question that we had, and it is, what is your best purchase and worst purchase in Web3?
Okay, best purchase and worst purchase. I think my best purchase is any piece of art that I bought from a friend who hasn't left the space, because I think that when friends of mine have invested in each other, it just really, like, the bonds in this time like really grow when we've collected each other's art. I know that's not one NFT, but if I had to say, like, I don't know, I really love my friendship with Dave Krugman, and I have a couple of his drip drops. He's local nearby as well. He helped me get into the space, so That was one of my best purchases. And then worst, I bought some pretty crappy derivatives early on just because I was like, I didn't know what I was doing and I missed some big opportunities to join, say, like the Doodles community. So I picked up a Doodle on secondary and then I ended up buying some Doodles derivatives. So I'd say the derivatives were my worst purchase.
Little FOMO
Funny.
buying. Nice.
I don't know. Yeah, it's like it was a confusing time, right? Because you're like everyone's doing things for all different reasons. And you can tell that like FOMO is getting you in for whatever reason, but everyone has different motivations of like why they're in these communities. I still have the Doodle.
Hey, really? What does
yeah.
your doodle look like?
Looks a little bit like me. I think it's 5160.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look it up. Michael, you can do your question if you want.
Got you. Who's your favorite stand-up comedian?
Favorite stand-up comedian? Lately, I've been really enjoying Mike Birbiglia.
Yeah, I love Mike Birbiglia. I've been a fan of his for a while. He's got an interesting style. Yep.
I also really like Cat Williams randomly. I just like the more sensational kind of comedians. Eddie Murphy, hilarious. I guess yeah, but more recently Birbiglia is my thing.
Wow, Birbiglia and Eddie Murphy, definitely a interesting dichotomy. That's good.
I just love all kinds of comedy, man.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
I grew up on Eddie Murphy movies though, as like one of my favorite comedians, so that's why I mentioned it.
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, 5160 is literally a purple hair bun girl.
Okay, that's not the right number then.
I was like, does that look like you?
Switch the 6 and the 1.
Okay, 5610. Oh, wait,
With
that one's
hat?
bald.
No, that's not it. I gotta find it. Sorry.
I was like, you're not even bald.
I haven't looked at it in a while. Yeah, I only rocked it as my profile picture for a little while.
Yeah.
I felt like I was just gonna leave with my art after that. PFP
yeah, that's
phase.
smart. Right. That's definitely smart. Okay, my next question is, what is your least favorite job that you've had?
Least favorite job that I've had. For a little while, I worked at a fashion company that was like very preppy, very like suits and stuff. Like just they sell that kind of clothing. I'm not going to say the brand, but I had to do the worst kind of graphic design for them. I had to do banner advertisements, and that's like no one's favorite thing. So I think that was like the worst job that I ever had because I didn't get to creative direct them either. I just had to like slice and dice a bunch of other already made assets to like turn them into advertising. Oh my God, so soul sucking.
Did you have to wear a suit to work?
No, but I did try to dress up a little better when I went to that job. It just so wasn't me. Like I don't know. It paid fairly well, and I just needed something to like be able to keep doing my art on the side. And that job just kind of came when I needed a job. But yeah, I didn't stay there for more than a few months, like maybe 6 months.
Oh wow.
Before that, I delivered pizza in high school, which I actually liked better than that.
Wow.
Yeah.
High school jobs are fun because it's just like you're more carefree about it. Like you're not trying to make it a career. You're just like trying to have fun. So
yeah, and you get some cash. You get a little cash.
Yeah,
it's nice.
You're making like $7 an hour. Woo!
Right.
Yeah.
What is your favorite museum?
My favorite museum, I would say it is the Museum of Arts and Design in Columbus Circle in New York, Mad Museum.
Nice.
They have a residency there as well, where like people on the top floor of the museum get to have studio space. And it's just always been on my radar of like things to apply to in the future. So hopefully that happens.
Super cool.
That's fun.
Love it.
What is something that you want to get better at?
Something that I want to get better at is speaking. Yeah.
Like public speaking or just like speaking in general?
Both. But I've done a little bit of public speaking, and I've always found that the effect of like when you have someone's attention to deliver a talk for 20 minutes or something, you can just really convey a lot. And when you're in person versus like watching a YouTube video, it's just powerful moments. I've had powerful moments watching people speak, and I hope that I can do the same for others because I'm just like we're all just regular people when you break it down. And the internet is like really good at abstracting that away and making us feel like we can't just be vulnerable human people. But when you're in person and you speak, you tell your story, like, I don't know, I've just seen so much good come from that. But I'm not a great speaker, and I know that I need to really work on my storytelling and just be able to be a little more eloquent when I talk about what I'm doing with my visuals. Like art was my first language, so it's a little tricky to learn this English thing.
No doubt. Who is your biggest inspiration in the art world?
My biggest inspiration in the art world, like someone who's still alive practicing.
Well, whatever to you. What, like, I mean, I thought of it a couple different ways. Maybe like when you were growing up, who your favorite artist was, or who you saw that you said, I could be like that.
Yeah. So my grandmother was a role model early on for me. She was a painter with watercolors, and as well as she made these beautiful stained glass pieces. And she had this workshop in her basement that she would create all of her work in. And so that was a big inspiration to me early on. And then one other person was when I was in college, I had this one professor that taught the class about experimental lettering and typography. And he was like this wizard of a artist who could just create these pieces where you could like flip them upside down and it would say something else, or you could put the artwork in a mirror and it would say something else that like told a story. So he could just sculpt letter forms to be like magic. And that guy's name was John Langdon. That name might be familiar if you've read any of the Dan Brown books, The Angels and Demons or Da Vinci Code, because he played a role in those books as well.
I remember the name. The only reason I remember the name is because I grew up on Langdon Street in Philadelphia, and Langdon is one of the signers, and I think it might even be John Langdon of the Declaration of Independence. There's a Langdon.
That's a different Langdon, perhaps.
I know,
yeah,
it's definitely a different Langdon. Definitely a different Langdon. Definitely a different Langdon.
Might be related. Who knows?
Yeah, could be.
Do you have any routines that you use to improve your focus?
Well, my brother has been on this big journey with his own mental health, and he's kind of gotten me inspired lately to do more meditation and breath work. So I've been doing these so far weekly Zoom calls where he and his coach and everyone else on the Zoom call just go through the breath work together and then meditate together and then take that into your week. It's every Monday morning. I've been doing that.
Great way to set your week.
Other than that, like I have ADHD and I got diagnosed in the last year. So I've been experimenting with different things, medication as well, to try and curb that a little bit. It's not like trying to cure myself, because I actually think ADHD can be a superpower. But I think when I need to focus or when I need to get something done that's particularly hard or I have a lot of resistance to it, the medication and also the just like any kind of organization I can do, breathing, making lists, like it all helps. So, but I think the breath work is my favorite thing just because you feel so good afterwards.
Yeah, Michael's been doing like hot yoga, which do you do like breath work for that too?
Yeah, I mean, yoga, they say the word yoga means breath. So like they say the only thing you have to do is breathe. We don't do any kind of special breath work, but it's just the breathe in through your nose, out through your nose, in through your nose, like the movement for the whole class. But we do breathe the whole time. I definitely hear that for sure.
I like the feeling when you've done a round of breath work and then you can literally hold your breath for like 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
That's a skill. That would be sick to be able to hold your breath for. Okay.
You have to try this. You have to try this. So there's breath of fire and then there's Wim Hof breathing. Those are two different types of breath work that will enable you by the end of the session to hold your breath for like a minute or longer. And then like you keep doing it and it feels so good to be able to do that. And then, I don't know, you basically flood your brain with oxygen and then you like don't need it. You can just hold your breath. It's crazy.
Dang, that's so crazy. Yeah, I've heard of Wim Hoffman. He's like literally the I don't even know what to call him. Like
the guru.
Everybody. Yeah, the guru for like breathing. Yeah.
Yep. I've also set a couple alarms in my phone now just throughout the day to like remind me to check my breathing because you might not be taking full breaths without realizing it.
Right. You usually just do like little shallow breaths, right? Like,
right.
But you're supposed to do like deeper breathing, like breathe all the way in, breathe all the way out.
Yeah. I totally didn't realize how much that had an effect on your well-being until maybe a few years ago. It's so simple though. Just like intentional breathing. Any other questions on this rapid fire?
Last round.
Well, a simple one for you. When you go out to eat, what is your favorite type of cuisine that you go for?
I'm a big fan of sushi. I love all kinds of sushi, and I will eat way too much of it when I go out because it's just one of those foods that like you never get full.
Yeah.
All right. My last question is, what is a book that's changed your life?
A book that's changed my life. I've really been enjoying Rick Rubin's The Creative Act. That's a newer one that I'd say is changing my life as we go through this year. I also really like Austin Kleon's books, Steal Like an Artist and Show Your Work. But I'm not a huge book person, honestly. Like, I don't dive into fiction and I don't go reading a ton. Maybe it's the ADHD, but I just prefer to listen to the books.
Audiobooks.
Yeah. Or podcasts. Yeah. One podcast that changed my life, though, is Creative Pep Talk. I highly recommend anyone who is a creative or wants to be creative for a living, balance that, making great art versus making money with it. Creative Pep Talk is the one that helped me the most.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Cool. I think that's it. You made it through Gas Wars. Thank you for joining us on the show and, sharing your story and hanging out with us for the hour. Appreciate you for coming on.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
It was a really good conversation.
Sweet. And you guys can follow Efdot on Twitter at Efdot Studio. Check out his shop, fdotstudio.com. And that's it. Michael, you have any last words?
No, I'm good, man. It's a pleasure to meet you, and hope to see you soon, man. You coming down for Basel? Coming for Art Basel?
I will be there from the 6th to the 11th. Yeah.
That's what's up. Hopefully our paths will cross. I'll be here as well.
Yeah. If there's something really good going on that you think I should be at, let me know.
I will. Yeah. There's a lot of cool stuff happening.
For sure. Yeah. Thanks again for having me on. It was really fun. Looking forward to hearing this when it comes out.
Woo-hoo.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
All right. With that said, thank you all for tuning into this episode of the NFT Catcher podcast, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Thank you for tuning in to the NFT Catcher podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and learned something new about the exciting world of NFTs. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you really love what you're hearing, please leave us a rating and review on your favorite platform. If you want to stay up to date with the latest news and insights from the NFT space, be sure to follow us on all the socials at NFT Catcher Pod. You can follow Jennifer at Jennifer_pseudo and Michael at NFTicket. I'm your producer, Andy, and I'm at AJC254. Our theme song's by It's Just Los. We always appreciate your feedback and support, which helps us reach more people and bring you informative and engaging content about NFTs. We look forward to bringing you more great NFT content in future episodes. Thanks for listening. Peace.